everyone, and welcome to Lisbon in Portugal, where I am at the moment, and welcome to this webinar where we want to give you some English for use in human resources. So today we're going to look at the language of job interviews. But first I'll introduce myself. My name's Tony Wynn, and I've been working in the English language teaching and learning sector for about 25 years in the UK, Portugal, France. I've worked as a teacher trainer, academic manager and university lecturer. And here are some of my students. So first of all, let's say again, welcome to Lisbon. The weather is not quite so good as that today. Now, here are some of my students from the University of Central Lancashire. They are all Chinese MBA students, and pretty soon each one of them will go through the recruitment process and be interviewed by HR people like yourselves. Okay, so that's about me, about my background. Now, I know Julia, you're in Kiev. What about Anastasia? Can you say hello and tell us where you are at the moment? So Anastasia, hello. Can you type in the box, in the chat box at the bottom, and say where you are? Yeah, she's typing. Okay. She's in Russia. Okay, it's a big country, but thank you, Anastasia. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to talk about the language that you use in a job interview context. Like I said, most of us, including myself, have actually interviewed quite a lot of people for employment. So let's look at what we're going to do today. First of all, we're going to look at what people actually do with English, which are known as the skills. Then we're going to look at how they do these things, so listening and speaking and so on. The language systems a little bit. We're going to discuss work experience, so we're going to look at language used to discuss work experience. Also language that you might use to ask and check for personal details. This is all in the context of job interviews. How you ask people to describe their accomplishments and understand what they say when they respond to that question. Also, we're going to talk about the question that most people don't like in an interview when they're asked to describe their strengths and weaknesses. And we'll do this within the framework of the recruitment process. Okay, so we have another person with us, I think. Welcome, number 2. Okay, so here's what we actually do with language on a basic level. We listen to people, we write, we read, and of course we speak. Now, in this webinar, we're going to have elements of all 4 of these, again in the context of a job interview. Okay, so that's what we use language to do. And with these tools, so to do anything with the language, you need to simultaneously know the vocabulary that you need to do it. You need to transform that into a string of sounds, which is pronunciation. You need to structure it, which is the rules of grammar, and you need to know how to put it into a text. So there are rules about different types of text. This is known as discourse. So we're going to look at all four of these different things. There will be elements of lexis, which means vocabulary, some pronunciation, a little grammar, and we will be in the context of a job interview, and we'll see what are the rules in operation for that. Okay, now we're going to start with lexis. We're going to start with some vocabulary. So what I would like the participants to do, what I want you to do, is simply to listen. I'm going to say some phrases, and I want you to try to remember as many of these phrases as possible. Okay, they're all vocabulary related to the recruitment process. Okay, so when you're ready, do not write, please, just listen and try to remember what you can. Okay, so some vocabulary. Be suitable. Be suitable. Not suitable. Apply for. Apply for. Applicant. Applicant. An application form. An application form. Check credentials. Check credentials. Rejection letter. Rejection letter. Qualifications. Qualifications. Experience. Experience. Background. Background. Accomplishment. Accomplishment. Achievement. Achievement. A person specification. A person specification. Neglect to include. Neglect to include. Room for advancement. Room for advancement. Waiter. Waiter. Offer the job. Offer the job. Okay, can all of you write anything you can remember from that list of vocabulary into the chat box when I say start? So 1, 2, 3, start. Any words or expressions you can remember, can you write them in the chat box, please? Okay, I'll give you a minute to do that. Yeah, so Julia's typing. Can anybody else remember any of the vocabulary? Okay, nothing so far. You must have very bad memories. Okay, I'll give you another minute for that. Excellent. Thanks, Julia. That's brilliant. We've got suitable, apply for, applicant, application form, background, and qualifications. All very useful vocabulary in the context of the job interview. Okay, that's great. Thanks very much, Julia. Okay. Now, let's see. Now let's have a look at these items. And more from Julia. We've got achievement, room for advancement, waiter, and offer the job. Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, so here are the items of vocabulary. We've got be suitable or not suitable. That means obviously the right person for the job or not right for the job. Apply for a job. It's a part of the process. An applicant is someone who does apply for a job, and they write usually on an application form. Now, as an HR person, we need to check their credentials. Is what they say about themselves true or not? And if we decide not to give them the job, we will send them a rejection letter. And part of checking credentials is to check qualifications, university degrees, professional qualifications, etc. And also we like to know about their experience so that we know that they will fit with the job. We have another word here, background. This means what they did in the past also, that's about their experience. Where do they come from? Accomplishment, what they've done which would be useful for the job. And an achievement, we usually ask something special that the person has done in the past which relates to the job. A person's specification is part of the application process, and it outlines what kind of person we want for that particular job. Now here's another different item. Sometimes people neglect to include some details about their past, and part of our job when we interview people is to find out why there are gaps in their curriculum, for example. Why did they not include this? This expression, room for advancement, means that there is space within the company so the person can progress as much as they want to. Okay. Now finally, here's a job, a waiter, someone who works in a restaurant and serves you. And if the person goes successfully through the recruitment process, they do not get a rejection letter, we offer them the job. Okay, so that's some of the language that you'll see in the rest of the webinar. Okay, all related to the recruitment process. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is to go through a job interview, or at least part of the process. And to do that, we need some people. So we have identified a short list of applicants from a pool of about 30 people who actually applied for the job, and here they are. We've got this gentleman here, we've got this lady, another gentleman here, and another lady. So 2 men, 2 women. They all have very different backgrounds. Now, one thing I would like you to do during the seminar is to decide what exactly is the job. So that's your task. At the end, I'm going to ask you what you think the job is. Okay, so while I'm talking, I want you to think, what exactly is this job? Okay, so here's the first candidate. He's called Ziling. He's 24 and he's got an MBA from Cambridge University in marketing. So that's our first candidate. We've also got Jennifer Jones, who's 27. She did a degree in economics at the London School of Economics. Here we have Duncan Rourke. He's a bit older. He's 57. He didn't have a formal education, but he's got a very strong background in sales. And finally, we've got Lucy Luca. She's 29 and she did a marketing degree at Lancaster University. So these are the 4 candidates for the position. Okay. Now, before we look at the interview state, let's have a quick reminder of the recruitment process from an organizational point of view. Okay. So when we recruit, we first of all identify an organizational need. There is a space that we need to fill. We then decide on a job description for that need, and we write a job description, and we write a person specification, the type of person that we want for that particular job. Okay. After this, we advertise the position. That can be online, it can be in a newspaper, it can be in a trade magazine. Lots of different ways to advertise jobs. And we then get our applications in, and we identify and shortlist the applicants. Shortlist meaning make a smaller number, and finally we interview the applicants. So just to remind you, we've got we've got 4 candidates, and here they are. Okay, so we're at the interview stage now. That's our shortlist. And during the interview, we have certain questions that we need to ask. Okay, we need to keep these questions in our mind. Can they do the job? Will they be able to do their job? Do they have the skills necessary to do the job? And how well will they fit into the organization? Okay, so that's what we're going to be looking at during the interview. This will move eventually. Okay, so we have actually decided that the first 3 applicants are not suitable. What we're going to do is to interview Ziling, because there was something about the other 3 that we didn't really like particularly. So this is our last candidate in the interview, and we're going to interview him. Okay, but there is a problem, because we think he's too inexperienced for the job. We're not really sure that he's going to fit with the rest of the team. And also, this job is in Russia, and we're not really sure whether he's going to adapt very well to living in Russia. So there are some problems that we need to think about during this interview. So let's go to the place where the interview is going to be, which is in a hotel in a city called Tula in Russia. He's flown from London for the interview, and let's go to the interview room. So now we are about to interview Ziling. Okay, now with us we have his resume, and here are some personal details and qualifications from his resume. So he was born on that date. This is his telephone number. It's a UK number. This is his mobile number and his email address. Ziling can speak Mandarin Chinese, which is his mother tongue, but he's very good at English. He's got a C2, which is a proficiency level of English, so he's a master of English. He can speak it almost to native speaker standards, and he can also speak French quite well to upper intermediate level, which is B2. His formal education, well, we know that he did an MBA in marketing at Cambridge University, so that's very impressive. And also, before that, he did an honours degree at the University of Sussex, where he got a 2-1, which is a very high class of degree in international business communications. Just to prove that his English is really that good, he's passed an exam called IELTS, which is a Cambridge exam, and he's got a band 8, which is the highest. So he's actually really very good at English. Okay. Now we're going to move on to the interview itself, and I would like you to listen to the first part of the interview. Okay, so you need to imagine that there are 2 people, 1 the interviewer, and 2 the candidate, the applicant, Lee. Okay, So if you just listen to this for a moment. So Lee, have a seat. How are you doing today? Oh well, pretty well, thanks. Good. Now, it says on your resume here, you were born in 1987, is that right? Yes, I was born in Hong Kong, and I moved to the UK for my education. I see, right. And you have an MBA from Cambridge University. Very impressive. Can we just check your phone numbers? Sure. My landline number is 0044 01524 41980, and my mobile 967 011 443. Good. And your email address we have, right. You can speak a number of different languages. That's right. I have a good score on IELTS. Okay. You don't say here when you did that. Okay, so that's the end of the interview stage, and let's look at what was actually said. Okay, so if you can read this, what I want you to do is to try to memorize as much of this as possible. You will have a couple of minutes to do that. So here is the text. Solly, have a seat. How are you doing today? Well, pretty well, thanks. Good. Now it says on your resume you were born in 1987, is that right? Yes, I was born in Hong Kong and moved to the UK for my education. I see, right. And you have an MBA from Cambridge University. Very impressive. Can we just check your phone numbers? Sure. Good. And your email address we have, right? You can speak a number of different languages. That's right. I have a good score on IELTS. Okay, I'm going to give you a minute to read that quietly and try to memorize as much of it as you can. Okay, so when you're ready, you can do that now, please. 1, 2, 3, go. Seconds. Okay, I'm going to make this disappear now. Now, can you remember what goes in the spaces? Try to remember what goes in the spaces. Okay. Okay. Okay, this is quite difficult, I know, but you'll see it again in a moment. Okay, good. Alright. Okay, I know it's quite difficult, so I'm going to make it more difficult. Let's see what you can remember now. Okay, let's run through that very quickly. Alright, so let's have a seat. Yes, have a seat, but it's spelt like this. It's very good. Have a seat. It's pretty good, Julia, pretty good. Okay, I know it's quite difficult this, so let's have a look for one more time at this this little part of the interview. Okay. So these are types of things that you can say at an interview at the beginning to make the person feel at ease. You're going to receive a PDF file with all of this language on it. So let's just look at some more examples here. Okay. So these are things you can use to start the interview, language you can use to start the interview, and to check personal details. Okay, so like I said, you're going to get a PDF with all of this language on it later. Okay, now here's a question. Moving on to the next stage of the interview, we always ask about work experience. And here's an example of Lee and what he says. Okay, this is on his resume, and this is his work experience. So if you just take a minute to read that. So this is what he's actually doing at the moment. Okay, so he's quite impressive, I think. Yes. Okay. So that's what Lee's doing right now. Let's have a look at what he did in the past. Okay. So remember, this is all on his resume, which we have. Alright, so yes, he seems to have some quite good, a good background. Okay. Now here's what he actually says, and I'll read this to you as if I were Lee in the interview. Yes, I've been in my present position for almost 2 years. After I left university, I worked first as a management trainee, and after 6 months as the assistant manager at Arnaldo Marketing. I've never regretted the move from the works, since Arnaldo immediately put me on a fast track for employees with the potential to go far. I applied what I learned and have made good progress, but I'm now faced with a problem. The current marketing manager has been with the company for 5 years, and I can't see much room for advancement. That's why I think it's time to move on. And I was very excited when I saw the advertisement for this this opportunity. Okay, so that's what how he describes his past experience. Okay. Right. Any guesses now what you think the job could be? If you can put them in the chat box, what do you think the job is actually for? What is the job? We're interviewing Z. But we don't know what the job is, so can you put any suggestions you have into the chat box? What's the job? Okay, I'll give you a minute to do that. Any ideas? What do you think the job could be? Oh. Okay, nobody's sure at this point. Okay, let's move on and talk a little bit more. Now, sorry. I'm going to give you another minute, and I want you to look at the verbs in this text. Okay, so if you look for 1 minute, read it and identify any verbs you can see. Okay, that's all I want you to do. Read the text and look for or look at verbs in the text. Remember, this is what Z said, his actual words. He's describing his past experience. Alright, yeah. maybe. Okay. I'm not saying quite yet. You'll find out a bit later exactly what the job is. Okay, so there are quite a lot of verbs in this text. Let's have a look at them. Now it says, I've been in my present position for almost 2 years. We use this structure to describe past experience which has a connection to the present. This is called the present perfect, you may or may not know. But we have another structure, which is this one in red. Left, worked, was. This is the past simple. This is to describe something that finished in the past. That's the distinction between these two. And we use these two structures particularly to talk about our previous experience. Okay, so here are some more examples. I've never regretted means I don't regret now, and I didn't regret it in the past. So that's just a little grammar. Again, when we talk about past experience, we use these two structures very often. Okay, so there we go. Alright. Right, now, let's move on. Remember, I'll give you all of this information on a PDF file a bit later. Okay, now we're going to look at work experience further. I would like you to try to change the verbs in blue into the two structures that we just looked at, and I'll give you 2 minutes to do that. Okay, so I'll give you the first one as an example. It's be and present, connection with the present and the past. That one must be I've been in my present position for almost 2 years. So I'll give you 2 minutes to try the other ones. Okay, so did it finish in the past, or has it got a connection with the present? So do we have any suggestions? The first one I've told you, I've been in my present position for almost 2 years. And I'll just read it to you. After I left university, left, that's finished. I worked first, that's finished, as a management trainee, and after 6 months as the assistant manager at Arnaldo Marketing, I was promoted. I've never regretted the move from the work since Arnaldo immediately put me in the past, not the present perfect, on a fast track for employees with the potential to go far. So that's pretty positive. I've applied what I learned and have made good progress. So there's a connection to the present, which is useful for us because we're interviewing him. But now I'm faced with a problem. The current, which means now, marketing manager has been with the company for 5 years, and I can't see much room for advancement. So he wants to change his job because he can't go any further in the current job, and that's why he was interested in the advertisement. Okay, so let's move on with the interview. Now the big question, the one that nobody likes, what are your strengths and weaknesses? I don't know what you feel about this one, but if I'm interviewing a teacher, in my case, this question is always a very strange one, I think. But I think most of us use it when we interview potential applicants for jobs. So here are some answers. Okay. Now what I want you to do is to decide how you would react if somebody said this. Is it a good thing? Is it neutral? Or is it something that you would think, uh-oh, that's not good? Okay. So this first one, I have a very effective organisational abilities. Do you think that's positive, neutral, or not a good thing necessarily? Can you put, let's say, if you think it's very positive, can you put 10 in the chat box? If you think it's not so important, put 5. If you think it's not important at all, put 0. Okay? So Alexei in Russia thinks that it's 10. So to have effective organisation abilities is extremely important, and I would agree in most jobs. Julia's typing. She thinks that's very important too. I think we probably all agree about that one. My time management skills are highly developed. Again, if you can put 0 to 10, 10 being very important. What do you think about that one? My time management skills again. Yep, I agree. Extremely important. Oh, 5 from Alexei. That's interesting. Okay. I wonder what he does. Okay, I get on well with others. You have a good relationship with the people you work with. And lots of people use this one when they describe their strengths. Again, how important is that to you? Okay, we've got Elaine online now. Hello, Elaine. Okay, I agree that again, these are all extremely important things for someone to have. This one I've heard quite a few times. I'm aware that there are areas I can improve. Do you think this is a good thing or not? I do, personally. I think it shows that they want to learn. But what do you think? Yep. It's another 10 from Alexei. Yeah. I think that's very good. I agree. I think that's really important too. This one's a bit strange, but sometimes people say this. I'm able to cope with being unpopular, which means people don't like me very much, but it's not important to the job. So it doesn't matter. I can deal with it. How would you react if you saw that at an interview? If someone said that. Yeah, that's a good answer. That's nice. Yeah, Julia's saying he's confident with what kind of weaknesses he has, and he's being honest. I think if someone says this, but that depends on the job. If it's a job where teamwork is absolutely essential, then it's going to be difficult to integrate this person into the team. I would think that's true. Okay. Now this one, I don't have any significant weaknesses. If someone says this to you at a job interview, what's your reaction? Still thinking, it could be a managerial position. Yes, it could. But I'm not saying yet. Okay, fantastic. It could be a managerial position. Yes. Now, this one, I don't feel I have any significant weaknesses. I would be very careful if somebody said that at an interview myself. And here's another one. I find it difficult to make big decisions. Yes, again, personally I think be careful if someone says that. This one, my greatest strength is my ability to manage in a crisis. How important is that, do you think? Yeah, if you could vote on that. No, I agree. Why don't you like that then, Julia? That's a very good, yeah. But people use them. People use these expressions, don't they, in interviews? Okay. I can apply the experience. Well, we'll forget that one. Let's move on a little bit. So that's about strengths and weaknesses. Another thing that we do during the interview is to ask people to describe things that they've done that are positive accomplishments. Okay, and there are different ways to ask this question. All mean the same thing, more or less. So what was your proudest achievement? What is your greatest achievement? What was your most significant accomplishment? What do you consider to be your greatest success? What do you see as your greatest accomplishment? What do you consider to be your greatest accomplishment? Now, I'm going to ask you that question, or these questions, but it's the same question really. And if you can write a little description of an accomplishment in the chat box, anybody, that would be good. Just a one sentence, if somebody can write that, something that they think they're very, very proud about in a work context. And I'll give you an example. So if you can think a minute. What was an accomplishment? Okay, that was an achievement for me. I managed 500 Italian children at one time a few weeks ago. Sorry about the spelling. Okay. Alright, well, let's move on a bit. I think when you ask these questions, the person is going to speak for a little while, and you have to be careful with what they say. Again, you're listening for potential problems. What you need is a well-organized story, something which is true. Sometimes people invent things for this section of the interview. They need to give examples of useful and relevant skills and qualities which they can use in that particular job. And also we need to listen for the way the applicant talks about the achievements. Are they too proud? Are they did it involve being not very pleasant to other people? Lots of things to listen for in that case. Okay. Do they include relevant details, relevant to the job which is being advertised? And does their story draw attention to positive personal attributes? Did they help somebody? Did they show leadership qualities? These are the things that we're looking for as HR people. And we want to be careful of, did they give less emphasis to some of their other accomplishments? Why is this one so important? And during their story, did they talk about how exactly this accomplishment has prepared the applicant for the specific job? Okay. So let's move on a bit. Alright, now we're going to listen to our friend Lee and find out what he said exactly. Okay, so I'd just like you to listen to what Lee said during his interview. And the question was, so what was your most significant achievement? And here's his answer. Let me think. Oh yes, well, there was one occasion when Mike, the manager at the works, was off sick for over a week. It was the first time this had happened, and because I was much younger than most of the staff, I was worried that they wouldn't respect me as their manager. So one day we had a big complaint from a regular customer. She'd been given the wrong change from a £20 note. The waiter refused to believe her, and the lady was very angry. I showed the staff that I could exert authority by telling the waiter calmly and firmly that you must give the lady the correct change. I know it doesn't seem a big thing, but the staff respected me from then on, and I learned a lot from my first real experience as a manager. Okay, so that's what he says. Let's look at that now. Okay. Let's see what was said. Alright. So here's his answer. And again, do we have any more idea about what the job is? So Julia thinks that it could be a management position, and I think she could be right. But let's move on. Okay. Now, the decision. Let's have a look at the actual job. So here it is. This was the job advertisement. If you could just read that. Okay, so it's for a multinational marketing company. I think you said that, Julia, that it was actually a management position in a marketing environment, which is correct. Okay, so it's quite a good job. It's negotiable salary for the right candidate. Means might get a lot of money if he does well. And that's it. Okay. Now, that's the end of the presentation. What I would like you to do is to decide, are we going to give Lee the job? So if you can simply type yes or no into the chat box. How did he perform? Okay, so please write yes or no in the chat box. Alexi says no, Anton says yes. Julia says I think no. Okay. If you have a reason for that, like just one word, an adjective, maybe inexperienced or another word, why do you think you shouldn't get the job? So he's come all the way from London for this interview, and now you decided you don't want to give him you don't want to give him the job. So if you can put an adjective to explain, inexperienced, for example, what makes you think he's not good for the job, not the right person for the job? Okay, very good answer. Yeah, Julia says because he's got no experience in this kind of market, actually in Russia. Yeah, that's a good reason. And also, I think he didn't demonstrate that he could fit with the culture. Yeah. Okay, he's a very insecure person, indeed. Good reasons why not to give him the job. Okay, so that is the end of the presentation. We didn't, unfortunately, give Lee the job. Now we're going to have a little question and answer session. If you have any questions you would like to ask, please put them into the chat box, and we'll try to answer them for you. Yeah. Okay. I'll try giving Elaine the microphone rights now. Yeah, so we do actually do classes online, but they're rather different from a lot of other things that are offered. In that it's like a real classroom, but it's online. So you speak, you listen. We have material which is specifically for this, done on PowerPoint with us. I know how valuable that is for all of us. And I look forward to seeing you again. As I said, I'll send you the PDF file with the language from today's session. Okay, thank you very much, and bye for now.